Hi everyone. Today Eric and I are at the Protein House in Phoenix. We're here to discuss your protein needs and also answer a viewer question about sugar cravings. The Protein House is located on the southwest corner of Indian School and 32nd Street. In that shopping center, it's actually located at the far southeast corner. Eric, I love the places like this are opening up. We have so many better, healthier options these days. Not far from here is Delight, and further up the street they're going to open up a chop shop as well. So our options have become so much better than they were just 5 years ago. So Eric, protein needs across the lifespan. Do they change? Do they also change according to our daily activities?
Yeah, protein needs, they change as you get older because you're less sensitive to the protein, so you usually need more protein. Protein for just health, you actually don't need that much protein. Very small amounts of protein, 0.5 or 0.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. That's just for health. But for active people that want to grow muscles, there's a certain amount you should try to hit in order to trigger a muscle protein synthesis response.
Right.
Now that amount is determined by how much leucine is in the complete protein. Somewhere around 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine in a complete protein will trigger a muscle protein synthesis response. And once it's tripped, you have to wait about 3 or 4 hours before you can trip it again. So taking in more protein than that won't really matter so much.
So how do you know if you have leucine in there? Are you looking for something then that is considered a complete protein in that it has all the amino acids?
Yes.
I mean, a lot of times I see a lot of ingredients and
Right.
stuff, but I don't necessarily the breakdown. Sometimes you see a breakdown
Right.
in very, very small print,
Right.
but it's not necessarily a sugar, a fat, a carb.
It's meat.
Meat, okay.
Meat, or even better than that would be whey, but whey, because it's dried, it's condensed, is going to be a lot easier to hit those numbers with whey. But basically meat. Vegetable protein is usually not complete. You'd have to take in more of it or different combinations of it in order to get a complete protein and enough leucine in, and it's expensive.
Okay, so the leucine is the real key.
That's what triggers it.
Okay.
So if you have the 3 grams of leucine in a complete protein, it'll trigger the response.
Okay, and that's what you want.
Exactly. And taking in more than that, it's not going to re-trip. It's already tripped, and it takes 3 or 4 hours to reset that. But the real question is, can you use more than 25, 30 grams of protein?
Right, we hear that it goes to waste if you can't, right?
You'll use every gram of it that goes in. But what goes in for muscle protein synthesis is a certain amount, depending on how heavy you are, your body weight. Beyond that, you'll use it as fuel. Or
Is it going to turn to fat like the myth has been for a long time, or what people will tell you?
It can. It's just very difficult for it to, and it's more than likely not going to happen.
Okay.
More than likely, the extra protein will not be turned into fat. It can be turned into fat. It's a very difficult process to do.
Probably have to eat a lot.
You'd have to eat a lot
to do that.
I doubt it would happen.
Right.
You rarely see anybody eat a lot of protein and get fat unless there's a lot of carbs going in with the protein.
Okay, so what about like for older people, someone that's 70 or older? Does that change as we get older, our protein needs, or do they stay the same?
Here's what changes. Your sensitivity to the what would normally trigger that muscle protein synthesis response, you're less sensitive to it. So you typically need to take in more protein to trigger that response.
Okay.
But there are ways to get yourself more sensitive to that. One is exercise.
Okay, because what happens then during exercise that triggers it that doesn't happen to a sedentary
If
person?
someone's sedentary, they're less likely to get that muscle protein synthesis response. If they go for a walk or lift some weights, it takes less protein to trigger that response for them. Once they get older.
It takes more if you're sedentary
Yes.
to trigger the response.
Exactly.
If you're active, then you're kicking it in.
Right.
And just by taking a walk too.
Just by taking a walk.
Just as easy
yeah.
as that.
But even then, it would still mean you need to take in more protein in order to trigger that response. Your need is going to go up because it takes more to make the same thing happen.
So what do you think? Like a third of a gram, a half of a gram per pound of body weight?
Brad Schoenfeld has the best research so far on how much you should take in. But if your goal is muscle protein synthesis, you take in a complete protein with each meal. So somewhere around 23 to 30 grams of protein will have at least that 3 grams of leucine triggering that response.
Okay.
So the needs are still going to vary. For the younger or older individuals, if you went the bro way, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, it is bro, but you're still hitting those numbers.
Okay, so that's what you're looking for. And 23 to 30 per meal would do you.
Yeah, if you're hitting like 20 some odd grams, 30 grams per meal, it doesn't need to necessarily be that much, as long as it's like whey protein. I don't even know if it takes 30 grams. It might take less than that. Trigger. The trick is leucine. How much leucine is in it?
Okay, and that's what you get through whey or something as a complete protein.
Yeah, meat, eggs.
Right, meat.
Yeah.
Okay, red meat.
Red meat, fish.
White meat gonna give you the same
All
thing?
of it. Chicken,
all of it.
fish.
Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, pork, chicken, it's meat has leucine. And protein's pretty good for weight loss, right? Because it sates us really a lot quicker than
Satiety,
carbs.
the feeling of satiety,
Yeah.
fullness, how difficult it is to convert into anything besides muscle and energy.
Right.
Too much of it, you're just eating an expensive carbohydrate. You can convert some of it into carbs anyway.
Okay. I was talking to a client of mine referring this place to him, and he came back with a real quick response of too many carbs. And so I started flipping through their menu, and like their bowls have white and white rice, but they also have quinoa,
Right.
which is an awesome grain, and it's also seen as a complete protein.
Right.
So you're going to get your 8 amino acids. So because you have those options, you're not starved. You're
Right.
just stuck with all these high carbs from the rice.
Oh, what is he trying to do?
Right.
Yeah.
Stay lean.
Stay lean?
Stay lean.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that does us with the protein. Our needs are, you want to get 23 to 30 grams per meal.
And that's
gonna get
a rough estimate. That's not the gospel right there. But the main thing is you get enough of it in per meal to hit that 3-ish grams of leucine per serving.
Right.
And then you have to wait because you can't, once the trigger is switched, the muscle protein synthesis, it's switched.
Okay, and it's on.
It takes a few hours, which is why one of the reasons why you don't want to be constantly fed.
Right. You get a tolerance to it. It's not enough time for it to get through its cycle.
Right. You want that muscle protein synthesis response.
Right.
Each meal.
Sugar cravings. So Melissa, you wrote in, you emailed me a while ago. I did send you a private message about how to deal with sugar cravings. Hopefully you got that, but we went a little further into it. You're asking about how do I fight my sugar cravings. I'm ready. You got anything on that?
Don't be a baby. I don't know.
Don't be a baby. Get your head right.
Seriously.
Okay, first off, get your head right, but there's a few different things you can do. And when we talked about you, one of the first things you said was, well, grab a little piece and go, but then stop right there. So there's a couple things you can do. You can give in a little bit, have a tiny piece of chocolate. The other thing is you can also go get your head really right and go cold turkey.
Yeah.
There's a plan called the Whole 30. You familiar with the Whole 30 program?
I've heard about it. I'm not real familiar.
So you take out all the sugar in your diet for 30 days. That includes all the sweeteners that you do. And you got to become a real label reader on this. And then after 30 days, then you start to slowly reintroduce it. And honestly, you may start feeling sick if you've taken too much sugar at the time. Reach for a piece of fruit instead.
That'd be smarter.
The message I sent you a while ago when you first initiated this was that one thing I find is I'll have 2 teaspoons of almond butter, to get through it, and then I go to bed. That way I get my protein in, and it kind of cuts my sugar craving away.
That's a hard one.
Yeah. So, you have anything else?
No, I just try to do my best to avoid it as long as I can,
Right.
and then.
So, like everything else in this stuff, it's all about your head and where you're at. You've got to make a decision that this is the path you're going to go in and make it work for you. So give in a little bit or get rid of it completely and go on a plan. This is what I'm going to do. This is my focus now. No sugar for a month, and then slowly bring it in and see what works and what doesn't work for you. Your body will tell you because it'll start rejecting stuff.
Yeah.
You won't feel well, and that's a good thing. All right, so, that about wraps it up,
Yep.
right? We good? Hopefully that answers your questions. Remember, if you're looking for a really nutritious place to eat, the Protein House is it. If you have any other questions related to health and fitness, you can email Eric at newbodytraining@yahoo.com or myself at carl@longevitypt.com. I also have on my website is longevitypt.com. I have a selector, you can click on it and it says Ask Eric and Carl, and then type in your questions and we'll get them there as well. So So I think that's it. We'll also put our contact info below the video, so you can email us through that. And thanks, and we'll see you next time.